But now back to our main story this evening. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is heading to the United States on Sunday to meet President Donald Trump, aiming to finalize a U.S.-brokered 20-point peace plan. This all while Russia continues its shelling of Kyiv and other parts of Ukraine. Now, the talks are set to focus, among other things, on security guarantees, territorial disputes in Donbass, and a 60-day ceasefire to allow for a potential Ukrainian referendum. And I'm joined by senior fellow of the Atlantic Council, Diane Francis, to discuss the latest. Diane, I'm so glad to have you here with us on World News Tonight here on TVP World. So now, Diane, Volodymyr Zelenskyy met Mark Carney in Halifax today before he heads to meet Donald Trump in Florida. Now, what can you make of this meeting between Zelenskyy and Mark Carney?
He was there. My understanding is it wasn't because of Carney. It's because of the time zone constraints. And I think they did a conference call with all the European leaders. He went to Canada on his way to Mar-a-Lago, and he did the conference call. And they want to get some of their positions in order before Zelenskyy goes to Mar-a-Lago and talks to Trump.
However, it is important to say that Canada has been quite an avid supporter of Ukraine. Also, let's not forget the amount of the percentage of Ukrainians living in Canada, right? I mean, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Toronto, so on and so on. Diane, I want to ask you, I mean, Zelenskyy says he's ready to put a peace deal to a referendum if there is a ceasefire. How realistic is this, though?
Look, I think the whole situation is quite bizarre. First of all, you want to try and stop the shooting and get a peace truce, or even better, get peace, or demilitarized zone, or whatever it's going to look like. But one side isn't negotiating. He's not even saying yes or no to some of the things that are being proposed publicly. Putin hasn't said a thing. He's not at the table. And his seconds in command are, meeting with Trump's seconds in command and so on. But this is a crazy negotiation that's really one-sided. And, I think it's very unfortunate. The other thing that's important, too, to remember is that yesterday marks the anniversary of the day that the Soviet Union dissolved, fell apart. And that is something that Putin calls the worst thing that ever happened in the century. Well, most of us disagree with that. But the point is, this is a very emotional, difficult time. And he's just not doing anything. He's just being passive aggressive. And so it's very difficult to see it going on. He's just sitting there waiting for the best offer before he says anything. And now we have Ukraine talking to all the various allies and to the United States as well, and trying to get something they imagine will appeal to Putin without talking to him, without getting his pushback and his reaction. So, unfortunately, he's controlling this whole situation.
Dan, let me ask you before I move on to something else. I mean, Ukraine, of course, proposing, troop withdrawals in the east, and Russia. I mean, Russia's demanding, this full control of Donbass. And just to go further a little bit into what you're saying, is a demilitarized zone actually truly feasible? And let me just ask you this, my second question right away. I mean, let's forget about Zelenskyy and the government for a moment. How are normal Ukrainian citizens, society, reacting to this if Zelenskyy goes for this?
Look, he has the full support of the people of Ukraine. He's done a terrific job. Not a perfect job, but a terrific job in an awful situation. They do not want to concede any territory. Left to their devices and with unlimited funds from the US and Europe to fight, they would keep fighting. That's sort of my impression. On the other hand, that's not realistic either. And so some of these things that are being thrown out, whether it's about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear reactor, which Russia seems to want to hang on to, possess, even after this is done, or what you do with that piece of Donbass, whether it's a demilitarized zone or whether, as the Americans said, let's turn it into a free enterprise zone. Whatever, that has to be flanked with all kinds of security measures that the Europeans and the Americans are willing to prepare to help Ukraine get through this, and also to give their input as to which solution would work the best. But, all the while sitting there, smugly, passive aggressively is Putin, who's saying nothing.
So, we can't obviously say that Ukrainians are going to react to painful compromises, right? Let me ask you, and now let's forget about them for a moment. Do you actually think that we will be able to achieve a certain peace before the end of the year, which is in just a few days?
I hope so. I'm a little cynical because, as I say, it's all very one-sided. And, there's no way that Putin from yesterday or before was ever going to strike a deal that would be marked by the anniversary of when the Soviet Union fell apart because they capitulated. So, and because in large measure, the first country that left the Soviet Union was Ukraine.
Right.
And so he bears that grudge. And so, I think we've got a situation where hopefully Zelenskyy and Trump will come up with something, Trump that will fully endorse something. And that will make a difference. And then Trump will have to force and demand that Putin responds. And then if not, we've got to have the tomahawks, the pressure, more sanctions. The Europeans have to start to arrest all the shadow boats carrying oil. He's not got pressure on him at this point.
Dan, can a referendum on territory or security guarantees be considered legitimate while these millions of Ukrainians are displaced or fighting or killed under continuous Russian bombardment?
This is a very tricky thing, and it's another, we have an expression in English, throwing the spanner in the works. In other words, throw in something that's going to make the gears all stop working. Putin keeps saying, they have to have an election. Zelensky's not legitimate. They have to have a referendum. Well, he doesn't have elections and he doesn't have referendums. He's a dictator. So the logistics of doing a referendum are possible. Number one, because the Ukrainians are very clever. Number two, because they're digitized. Everybody is online. So they could have a referendum that would include the diaspora, the people living in Poland, the people at the front, the people getting bombed, theoretically. And so if that's going to be necessary, then that's going to be necessary. But it's doable. And I don't know. It depends on what they're voting on, how they'll vote. But I don't think just completely capitulating to everything Putin wants is not going to get the support of the Ukrainian people.
Diane, we've seen those horrific images of overnight Russian attacks on Kyiv. Honestly, they hurt your stomach when you watch them. But I want to ask you this. You're talking about Trump, and naturally, he says he can deliver peace quickly, right? There was an interview that was published on Friday. Trump says that Zelenskyy, quote, doesn't have anything until I approve it. But let me ask you this. When Trump sees these videos, sees these images, sees these people dying, clearly he knows that Russia is the one, sending drones, missiles on these buildings, on this infrastructure, on energy infrastructure. Do you think can any way this actually influence Trump's decision to say, hey, let's side with Zelenskyy for once, because let's be honest, at least in my opinion, he's been siding with the Russian regime and Putin all along. Do correct me if I'm wrong, Diane.
Morally, that's exactly what he should do. But strategically, what he's decided to do for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Putin has dangled a lot of riches under the nose of the U.S. president for corporations to do business in Russia after this is all over, none of which is believable. But anyway, he's falling for it. He's also taken a position that Ukraine cannot defeat Russia and the United States cannot indefinitely keep supporting, and the Europeans won't keep supporting. So what he's doing, he's got two sides to come to agreement. He can't push the Russians, or he won't push the Russians, and he's pushing the Ukrainians. Totally unfair, absolutely wrong, but possibly the fastest way to get some kind of a deal. I just think, as you point out, I think it's atrocious. It's immoral for Trump not to have given the Ukrainians tomahawks. The Russians are also frightened of Trump. I mean, this is the other card that he has to play that he hasn't played. He wants to be friends. He should
So
be
you're saying he has
them.
I have to interrupt you. So you're saying, I have to interrupt you. So you're saying that he has leverage also over Moscow, because again, that's not what we've been seeing. If anything, we would think the opposite.
He has leverage. And I'll tell you something else that people, should keep in mind. He's bombing Venezuela. He's bombing in Nigeria. He's using the full force of American military might to settle little skirmishes here and there. And, the guy is erratic. And when he gets annoyed, he changes his mind. And then suddenly we get a headline like he's blowing up drug boats or he's blowing up terrorists in Nigeria. What is to stop? And if I were Putin, I would calculate what is to stop Trump from suddenly getting angry enough. And I think he's got to put the squeeze on Putin. He's got to make Putin realize he can't be counted on. He is erratic, and he better be careful. And that's part of what the leverage required here is. And I think he can do it. And he's very difficult to read. Now, the good thing is Europe finally gets it. Europe's on side financially. Europe will militarize. So, that's all good. That's in place. But right now, we've got to stop this war. And Trump, and only Trump can do it. And also the Europeans can do it by seizing every boat in their waters carrying Russian oil, keeping it in port, impounding it until they pay a ransom for it.
Diane, I do have 1 minute left for our episode here this evening, but I do want to ask you, with everything you've been saying, what do you think we can speculate or expect? How can we expect the meeting between Trump and Zelenskyy to unfold tomorrow?
Well, we're not going to have, explosive outbursts. I don't think it'll be televised. I think they'll come out united. And he'll have his arm around his back and he'll say, we back you, and so on and so forth. And there'll be some kind of watered down, proposition for Putin to consider. And then Putin's guys will say, okay, well, we'll let our seconds in command talk about it. I'm not going to say anything right now. Keep trying. That's what's going to happen. More foot dragging.
Thank you so much, Diane Francis. Always a pleasure to speak to you here on TVP World, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council. Thank you so much for being with us here on World News Tonight.
Anytime.
And thank you for watching this edition of World News Tonight. I'm Diane Skaya, and stay with us for more news and exclusive interviews.